What's up, you guys, and welcome to Andy's Playground. I'm your host, as always, Andy, and today is going to be an interesting live stream. We're going to be talking about my experience with Disney during the Disney College Program, answering a lot of your guys' questions. Basically, I was racking my brain for a lot of days and a lot of weeks and stuff like that. I was just trying to figure out how I was going to address this video and how I was going to talk about this, because this is a really cool milestone for me. 1 year ago today, I officially checked into my apartment for the Disney College Program. There were so many memories and just so much fun, and overall there was just a lot to talk about, and I was just not sure how to cohesively put this into just a short vlog format video without it going over 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. And so I thought, what the heck, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a live stream. And that way, if you guys have any questions or if you guys have anything you want me to talk about, I can answer it here and I can talk about this just kind of in a free-flowing thought. And that way, if anyone ever has any questions about what it's like to be on the Disney College Program or as a Disney cast member, I can directly answer them instead of having to make several videos after this. It was funny because I was literally in the process of like, well, should I, make this, like my top 5 biggest regrets for doing the Disney College Program, or should I do this like my top 5 favorite things about the Disney College Program? And so it was just so much going on. But thank you guys all so much for coming out here. So let's greet some of you guys here that are coming in. Hi, Rod. Good to see you, buddy. Resort Budgeting. Always good to see you in the streams. So great to see you guys. So let's just start off with any questions you guys might have. If you guys are in this get-go, and I'd be happy to talk about it. I also have some stories I can share and stuff like that too. I had like so many scripts, and so many different plans I was going to do with this video, but I was just like, let's just do everything we can. So feel free to ask anything. Let's see what we got. I'm also going to just jump around to my own script that I had as well too. So that way I have like something I can talk about too. And Sierra's here too. I think you need to change the name of your channel at some point. But what was your most treasured memory on the Disney College Program? So we're going to start off with the top then. That's a good one. Let me see here. And Sierra, do you want to just come join me? Yeah, come on. You're just in the other room, so feel free to just come and join me. And you can probably share yours too if you want.
Felt kind of awkward.
No, you're good. They're always happy to see you. So, my favorite memory on the Disney College Program, I guess I'll start off with, what I've said before. So a while ago, I actually posted this in a video that I made. I think it was my Christmas video. And I talked about how there was this one family who had this daughter named Megan, who was autistic, and she was in a wheelchair. And she had been hospitalized for a while because she was experiencing various problems. I think, I can't remember specifically what she was experiencing, but her family was able to get out of the hospital in time. Like they literally left the hospital days after, and then they went to Disney World because they wanted to get her to see the new new Land and Galaxy's Edge, the new Land Galaxy's Edge at Hollywood Studios, all over the place today. And so what was really cool was she was a huge Star Wars fan. And so they were able to get her on the Millennium Falcon, which at that time it was like several hours wait because it was still a pretty brand new ride at the time. But they were able to get her on pretty early. She was a pilot, but by the time that the ride was over, she was just figuring out how to pilot the Millennium Falcon. And so it was a very difficult process for her. And so they take her off of the Millennium Falcon, and she's really depressed. She's in her wheelchair still. And they wind her past the Jedi training stage where she sees Darth Vader facing off against a youngling. And she is so mesmerized by this that she says, I want to fight Darth Vader. I want to fight Vader. And so they're like, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. And so they eventually get her up to me. I'm working at the Jedi training signups area. And basically what happens is they kind of explain everything that's going on. They tell their whole story to me. And so I'm like, all right, we'll see what we can do. However, the problem is to fight Vader, you have to go up some steps. There's some steps that go on the stage. And unfortunately, we can't really get a wheelchair up there. We can try. I can talk with some people. While we're talking about this whole thing, she stands up out of her chair and she says, "No, I want to fight Vader." And we're like, okay, let's make it happen. And so her parents are just shocked and everything else. And we get her robed up in their Jedi robes and she's so excited. And then as they're walking down, marching, here come the Jedi, all that stuff. I'm walking with my coordinator, Josh, and I tell him the whole story about what's going on. And Josh is like, let's make some magic. Let's see what we can do. And so he calls the people over at Millennium Falcon, and they're able to get them a walk-on after the show to go to the Millennium Falcon right after they finish their show. And she was able to fly it again, and she'll be able to, get a better experience with it. Fast forward a couple hours later, they come back after doing everything. They find me at the stage, and they're like, "Andrew, we just can't tell you how much she loved every minute of that." And that just made my night. It made my whole day, And but the story doesn't end there. This is a long story, but this is my favorite story. Fast forward a couple months later. Now it's near the end of my program, and I'm working in the Indiana Jones stunt show. And all these coordinators, all these cast members are like, "Where's Andrew? Where's Andrew at?" And I'm just working. I'm just minding my own business. And then eventually I get pulled over to Jedi training. Turns out that same family came back. This time, Megan wants to fight Kylo Ren, so that way she can take out both the dark side. And her mom comes up to me, and her father comes up to me, and they're like, "We want you to know that she's been in the hospital since we last saw you, and she's been going through various treatments and stuff like that. We're still trying to figure out what's going on, but we want you to know that every doctor, every single nurse, every single friend or family member that's come to visit us or see her has seen that video of her fighting Darth Vader." And she loves that memory so much that even the service animal that's being trained for her is named Vader. And I was just like, that's just so cool. And she's like, "You have no idea how big of a influence you've had on our family." And it touched my heart. I don't remember the name of that family, unfortunately. I only remember Megan, but I remember that. And it was just such a great memory. And so that was probably my most treasured memory on the Disney College program.
Wow.
You want to answer your own question?
Sure. Well, I guess we both had very different roles. Andrew worked more in the park and with the attractions.
I think we should say what we each did.
Yeah, let's just state
back it up a bit.
first.
So I worked Muppet Vision 3D. I always got to start that off first. Jedi Training, the show. Indiana Jones, the Epic Stunt Spectacular stunt show. Mickey Shorts Theater, which had just opened a couple weeks prior. Mickey and Minnie's Red Carpet Dreams, which is the meet and greet experience to meet Mickey and Minnie. And then Celebrity Spotlight, which is where you get to meet Olaf. That's all I covered.
All right. And then I worked in the Epcot parking lot, and eventually got trained for the Auto Plaza, which I worked in Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, and Magic Kingdom. So I worked at all 4 parks.
Yeah. Very rare to say that as a college program participant. So so kind of just going back. So we both have different, very, very different experiences of how we make magic. I made magic in a lot of different ways. Like I didn't really get to interact much with the guests inside the park. I was more either right before they're coming to the park or right after. But there's so many experiences I could name a whole bunch, but I guess one that came to the top of my head was there is this family, and I was in the Epcot East tram. So it's something you don't usually hear, because the West tram, that's like Journey, Amaze, all that section over there. And then you have the East tram on those really busy days. So nobody really comes to the East tram. So I was just in the back of this field, just waiting for people to get on the tram. And it's been 5 minutes, and sometimes we just have them take a lap if no one's there. But there was this family. It was an elderly family, and I think one of them was just visiting in town, but she has a difficult time walking. She actually just had surgery, but instead of
like, she was just using her cane, and I saw her coming towards us, and she was like, wait for me. And so she came, she was walking, but she had a hard time getting on the tram. And so kind of one of those magic moments is like, I just got to open the door for her, and then when she was trying to get up on the tram, she couldn't. I just kind of helped support her to get on the tram. And then something that was kind of magical that I was happy that I could do for them is that I made this kind of like a whole VIP thing that they're our VIP guests, and I got to take their picture because this was their family vacation all together, and then did, of course, the spiel and everything, and took them to their car, try to get them as close to their car as they can. But it was just really sweet because then afterwards they were just really grateful, and I helped her get out of the tram, and it was just such a neat moment. And you can only get those experiences at Disney and working as a cast member at Disney.
100%. It's just such a great experience. So long stories, but those are our most treasured moments. It was just such a blast. So let's get into some of these other questions. Resort budgeting, you're asking so many great questions, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So first question from you is, how many semesters of college do you need to be eligible for the COP, which you corrected, not Carousel Progress, but DCP. Perfect. So great question. One of the things I've seen is you basically just have to be kind of enrolled in a school. Mm-hmm. So I've seen some instances, I think, where it's possible to apply when you're like enrolled in college, but you might not have started it just yet. Or let's say you just done one semester of college and you're able to apply for it. You can do that too. Or let's just say you're graduating and you're going to do it after you've graduated. Like that's what I did. As long as it's within 6 months of graduating that you're applying for it, then you're in the clear. I think that's just pretty much the stipulation on it. And it's just such a cool experience. And the application process, I think I'm going to do Rod's question just because that kind of fills right into there. So what's the application process like? I have a really good video series on this on my channel, actually. So of me actually going through this. It's a process. The first process is it's a rather long initial application. When they dump, and they dump at certain times, whenever they're going to dump again, we don't know. Applications open up, and basically what it is, it's kind of an initial application where you put in your name, your information, your personal information,
resume, educational experience, educational goals, and then there's a section where you can fill in what roles you would like to do. You can kind of rank them on the highest, kind of like middle ground, and then the lowest interest or no interest at all. And then there's certain like high volume or high hiring areas that they ask you what is your interest in them. I think some of them were like food and beverage, custodial, quick service. Wait, I think that I ever said that. Quick service, merch, lifeguard was one of them too. Yeah. I think attractions used to be there, but I don't think it is anymore. It's probably because it's so popular. Everyone wants to work in an attraction. Everyone wants to work in an attraction. And that's just kind of how it is. That's just kind of how it goes with that. And they ask you like rate your interest on it. And like even if you put like somewhat interested about it, they'll ask you about that in the phone interview. After you submit that, typically it might take a couple hours or a couple days. Doesn't matter. It just depends on what that process is like for you. Some people, once they submit their application, they're stuck in this waiting period, and sometimes they don't get out of that waiting period. But sometimes you do. In my case, I applied for the college program 3 times. I really count it 2.5 because I backed out of my second time applying for it. Yeah, it was a fun story. But every single time I did, I pretty quickly, like within a day or two, I got a second email to do the second part, which was the web-based interview portion. The web-based interview, it asks you like a series of questions, like in scenarios and stuff like that, like how likely are you to do this, or what kind of person are you? Kind of like those kind of questions. And then as you're going through that and as you're answering, at the very end of that, they will say, congratulations, you've got a opportunity for a phone interview. But I don't think they'll really announce that just like right away afterwards, even if you finish. No, that's the end page. Oh, okay. Because for me, I felt like that it said like the ends, like you finish your web-based interview, you'll find out if you get a phone interview.
Interesting.
And then they send you that follow-up email saying, you got a phone interview, like set up your appointment time.
I will say, though, there might be a difference with that because I applied like hour that they dropped. You applied pretty late.
I applied both, though. I applied early the first time and then late the last time.
That's true. But I don't know. For me, every single time, it was literally right after I finished the web-based interview. Like the last question, boom, congratulations, you can set up your phone interview. And so I selected the day, and that's when I chose the phone interview. The phone interview is super cool because you're talking to someone who's a Disney recruiter. And that doesn't mean all the time that they actually work for Disney, but they'll interview you, and they'll talk with you about the program. They're typically very, very nice people, and they're very good at like calming you down and walking you through certain situations. I can't remember the name of my recruiter from this point on. It's been a year. I remember I recorded it in the video that I talked about it. But as long as you're just super positive and just super happy, like it's pretty simple. But like it's tough, it's intense because if you've never done a phone interview before, I'd recommend like talking with people on the phone, having them interview you and ask you questions and stuff like that, or doing something like this where like you're talking to someone and you're just trying to sell yourself a little bit.
Yeah, we actually did that one time because the first time I applied, that was actually, I knew nothing about how to do this process, but he had applied twice at the time. Yeah. So he was like, oh yeah, like they're going to ask you these questions. And so it definitely helps to have a friend there, come up with scenario questions, and then role play, kind of go through what you would respond.
Yeah, I should say on the second time I applied, I got to schedule a phone interview, but at that time I was going through some stuff and I just chose to back out. And that was my own personal time on that second try. I'll have to tell you about that sometime. That's a good story.
Cool story.
But that's basically what the process is like. After that, you wait. In my case, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. And then there were certain waves of acceptance letters were going in. I wasn't in the first initial wave, like the first, like they called it a puddle. It wasn't even a wave. It was just like a couple, maybe less than 100 people got their acceptance letters. And then like a bunch of people got their acceptance letters. And I was in that first wave. And then I recorded my reaction to that. And that was super fun. And that was a great experience. So many fun things. I think I'll definitely, whenever I get back with Disney again, I'm going to make like a little compilation video, like whenever I become a full-time cast member or something that. And I'll just like chop up some pieces from that too, just because that was a really fun video, getting your acceptance to work at Disney.
Yeah. Oh.
It was just so fun. Great question. But definitely, if you guys want more information on that, I honestly have to recommend, and I hate plugging myself. I hate having other people plug me because it's just awkward for me. But if you really want to watch it, I actually really highly recommend that video series I did where I literally walked myself through and walked you guys through what that process is like. Very interesting for sure. Let's go back to resort budgeting because you have some great questions too. How many hours do they require you to work a day?
I have so many great stories with hours.
Want to see it?
Okay, so it really depends. They say that you can work. Okay, the minimum you get as a CP is 32 hours. 30. Minimum is 30 hours. Excuse me. But you can. There have been many occasions in the past. Now they've been kind of lessening it back. But some, like parking, for example, you can get between 30 to 50 hours. Like I've many times gotten 45 hours a week or 47. And I've worked 12, 14-hour days in the parking lot. But it just kind of depends where you're at. Sometimes it's a nice schedule, like, 9 to 6 or the closing shift, basically.
You had some really crazy ones, especially for marathon weekends.
Oh, yeah. I think marathon weekend, I had some split shifts. I was working 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. at the parking lot, helping out with the marathon, the beginning part. And then they wanted me at the Auto Plaza from 9 to, I think, 2 or 3. So it was always like a really long day. And then the next day would be a similar schedule, like 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, for me, in working in attractions, you kind of work around the park hours. The latest attraction I would work, ironically, would be Muppet Vision 3D. Not because the show itself will end a couple hours before the park closes, but the Muppets is kind of on a weird track. So in my area, you would work certain attractions. So if you were going to be working Muppets one day, that would be the main attraction you're working, but you'd also be going to the meet and greet locations for Mickey and Minnie and also Olaf. And eventually you'd be also going to the Mickey Shorts Theater. Because there's 2 positions out there. There really, I think, probably should be 3, my opinion, but there's 2 for sure out at Mickey Shorts. But so you'd be working that kind of loop. But for Jedi training, you'd just be doing Jedi training that day. For Indiana Jones, you'd just be doing Indiana Jones. However, they were working to merge Indy and Jedi, so that way you'd be working that kind of route. That's part of the reason why they changed the costumes for Muppets. So that way it was that teal green, gross looking costume.
The Welcome to Hollywood Studios costume.
Yeah, the Welcome to Hollywood Studios. Half the park has this costume. More like 2/3. But yeah. So that's just kind of the hours. It would be working around like the park hours. So you would open, especially for like Jedi training. Jedi training was so open really early in the morning, especially for those early morning hours and stuff like that, because we would open up kind of around that time too. So I remember getting there for like 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning to like 2. A lot of it was 6-hour shifts. I remember that. And my hours were typically around, I think, 28 or 32 hours a week, and you had to pick up overtime. Yeah.
You're supposed to get a minimum of 30.
Something like that. I don't know. Oh, wait, no, it might have been 30, and then like to like pick up, you had to like get more. And a lot of people would pick up extra shifts, or like they would trade for longer shifts, especially Indy. Indy was a longer shift because you would typically work that one from attraction open to attraction close. And Indy goes from, like, the first show was at 12 o'clock. Oh boy, is it at 12? And then the last show is at 6, something like that. Man, that
11, I thought.
No, well, you would have to report there at 11.
Oh.
Or sometimes 10:15 if you're opening. I don't know. I can't remember because it takes a while to open that one. Wow. So yeah, your hours would definitely vary depending on what attraction you're working or where you're working. So great question though. That was very long-winded. Sorry about that.
Ooh, I like this next question.
That one?
Yeah. Can you bring in family members or friends and asking for a friend? So this is actually one of the many perks of doing the Disney College program, is that you get complimentary tickets for every 300 hours you work. I worked a lot of hours, so I got a lot of tickets. But what's really nice is these guest passes. They work for the one-day park hopper tickets that basically when you have a day off and you bring family or friends, as a cast member, you'd have to be the one to kind of check them into the park, I guess, where you go through the system of, like, scanning your pass or whatever. And then afterwards you activate your family member's pass, and then they're able to go in, and then they can have access to the park for the rest of the day without you even accompanying at some points. Right,
for sure. And I will say with that, there are some important things to understand though, because if you aren't a family friend, like if you're just a friend, that cast member is supposed to remain with you the whole day at the park.
True.
Like if you're a blood relative, like if it's your mom or your brother or something like that, you can get them into the park and then you can go to your shift. But if it's like your friend, you have to stay with that person. I don't know why necessarily. I think it's just a rule that they have. But that's the situation. Yeah, they're probably just not wanting to let just anyone, someone bring anyone in, or just give away your guest passes, since that's not the point of having them. But they're meant to be used for, family visiting or your parents coming into town or something. And also on top of that, the other thing is the passes that we had were called Chip and Dale passes, which means that we can get you into a park that we can get into. So for instance, we couldn't get anyone into Hollywood Studios for a majority of our college program because it was blocked out for cast members. The only way to get in for a cast member was to use their own. Some other cast members, not college program participants, but some other cast members have a certain pass they can give people where it doesn't apply to blackout dates. Right. And a lot of cast members I knew actually used their own to get in, and some of them actually gave me one of theirs, which is how I was able to ride Rise back in December. Great question. I just want to address, hi, Mike. I hope you're still in the chat. We've been answering questions and stuff like that. Good to see you still here. Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad that you're here. Glad to see anyone else who's here too. We're always happy to see you guys. Let's go back up here. Also, wanted to thank Rod for his comment about say thanks for letting him get the VIP seats for Indiana Jones. Honestly, that's the way to see the show. If you've never seen Indiana Jones from the VIP seats, I highly recommend it. Especially, I hope that they keep it around more. What's kind of really sad to see is all the cast that I'm friends with on Instagram and Facebook, they're all posting these pictures of their time at the show, and they're like, bring the magic back and stuff like that. Because Indiana Jones is one of the shows that hasn't announced when it's coming back yet. And so it's incredible. It's unforgettable. It's my favorite show at Hollywood Studios, except for Muppet Vision 3D. So that's going to be, you got to check that one out. It's just so great. And VIP seats are awesome. If I'm ever working that attraction again, I really hope I do one day. That would be a lot of fun. Just come find me and I'll get you there. Let's see. How many times can you participate in the Disney College Program?
Ooh.
As many times as you want. As long as it's between that variable that we were talking about, where it's a little bit before you go to college or 6 months after you graduate. That's just the variables right there. Short answer. Yeah. What was your favorite place to work during your DCP?
Ooh.
Let's start with you because you had a lot more locations.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. So for me, again, I worked at all 4 Disney parks in the Auto Plaza, and I worked in the parking lot. There's little aspects of each area that I like better. I like Magic Kingdom because there's more magical ways of greeting people, I guess, if that's a way. But like they're more lively when you greet people, and all the people that come to Magic Kingdom first are families or people with kids, and so you have a lot of magic moments there. Another one I really like is Animal Kingdom, working at their Auto Plaza, except when it kind of slows down towards the afternoon. But the people there are really great, and just the people that come into Animal Kingdom are awesome. Hollywood Studios, I actually had a really fun experience with that too. Not only was I in the Auto Plaza, but at the end of the night when Fantasmic was over, we were, I guess, the people to close the evening outside of the parks and point people where to go to get to their cars and all that. But then one of the things that we got to do was get the little stickers, and we got to pass stickers out to the kids that were coming out of Hollywood Studios. So that was so fun.
That's cute.
But yeah, and then Epcot parking, I miss driving the tram and spieling on the tram, and yeah.
So you liked every place you worked.
I liked it. Yeah. So I guess it's hard to pick one, but if we're picking Auto Plaza, personally, I like DAC or Hollywood Studios best.
So good question. I mean, honestly, I would say Indiana Jones actually was my first favorite. But the problem is Muppets is so fun to work because there's just a magic to it. It's just because it's such an old attraction. It's creepy because whenever you're backstage or like behind the curtains and stuff like that, you hear all the mechanics and the animatronics working. And it's like like you're hearing that sound. It's creepy, but it's just so cool. It's just a lot of fun. You get to get really up close and personal with some cool animatronics that are about 30 years old. The show opened 29 years ago. And so it's really cool to be able to see all that and just to work an attraction like that. But Indy was so much fun because it was different every single show. You had different elements that worked, such as the ball rolling. Is it going to roll? Is it not? You had a little bit of movie magic, right, guys? Aww. I mean, that's classic. It's just, there was too many to pick, but those two were great. I also wanted to reference, whenever I got to work in Magic Kingdom, I also worked for some of the parties. I worked for one Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party where I handed out candy throughout the night, and that was fun. I was in the Splash Mountain area where the train goes over. There's that little dip down there, and that's where you can get candy. However, the problem is when it was pouring down rain, there was like a tropical storm or something like that. And so we were getting flooded on both sides of that area. And so we were just like, well, we're an island now, and we just have a huge barrels of candy. And so we're just like, if anyone wanted to come see us, we just gave them like bagfuls of candy. And we're just like, kudos to you, man. You made it out here. Because we're way in the back of the park. And so not many people would come out there. But That was a lot of fun. So that was a cool place. I want to go to some other questions because we've been having so many new people come in, and I'm so grateful to see you. Good to see you, Aaron. We're so happy to see you, buddy. And good to see you, Kristen. I don't think I've seen you too much, so thank you. Welcome to the channel. Very happy to see you. I want to answer your question really quick. Can Disney water parks open without the college program? Great question. Great question. The college program had, I think it was 10,000 No, hang on. How
No,
many?
2,000, 3,000.
2,000, 3,000 people.
Mhm.
But at Disney World, there was like I think total like 70 something thousand cast members total,
Oh,
something like that. So I think the ratio is that big. So I mean, it's a lot of people. Like it's a good percentage of the people who were college program participants. But what I've heard and what I've understood is the way cast members are currently feeling at the parks is like how it is when there isn't a college program group there.
Mhm.
Like there might be some left over on their extension or something like that, but it's in between programs. And they're kind of strapped. They're really kind of rushing on their schedules. There's a lot of overtime issues. There's a lot of scheduling issues, and there's all kinds of problems going on right now for cast members. I'm grateful that I'm in a group on Facebook where I can like keep in touch with them and just see how they're doing. And right now, it's kind of a tough situation for them. With the water parks, that's still a lot of manpower. There's a lot of lifeguards that got to be there. There's a lot of custodial cast members. There's a lot of merch. There's a lot of other cast members. And so for them to open those parks, they have to pull from the other parks. They have to pull from the springs. They have to pull from the resorts for the lifeguarding. Right. And so for Disney to open one of those parks, they got to kind of see what manpower they have. And they haven't been hiring at all for any of their parks here that we've seen, at least any on the outside. And I think there's still some people that are waiting to come back that might be still furloughed. And so I think what they're doing is, unlike Universal, where Universal kind of just opened everything, I think Disney's kind of just taking their time, seeing what they have financially, and they're being, in my opinion, a little bit more responsible with that, with how they're bringing people back, or so that way they're not having to let go anyone,
or do any layoffs or anything,
or having to send anyone back into a furlough. Right. And so I think they're just kind of taking their time with that. I mean, if you come to Florida, there's tons of water parks, in my opinion, that might be as good as we only went to Blizzard Beach.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad,
but it's kind of, I feel like water parks in Florida are around the same. Like the only thing that makes things unique are the theme parks itself, and maybe some water rides within it. Mm-hmm. But
it's a tough question. I truthfully don't know, though. I don't think they're going to bring those back, at least for a little bit. I think they're going to just evaluate what they have, what assets they have, what they could do. If they want to open the park, is it profitable to open a water park right now? Because they made the decision it was profitable to open up all 4 parks roughly at the same time. So I think they're just going to wait to see, is it profitable to open up their water parks too. They might open up one, like they might open up Typhoon Lagoon.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that one was slated to be opening, and that one's also right next to Springs. It would make sense. Because Winter Summerland is not open right now. That's the miniature golf course. I think that's right next to. At least as far as I know, I might be wrong on that. But I know like Fantasia mini golf's open right now, and so like there's certain things that are closer to the resorts that are open, and so I'm thinking that's kind of the methodology they would probably use with reopening a water park. But great question. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Again, great to see you all. No, Mike, I did not see the exciting news you announced yesterday. I'm sorry, buddy. What did you announce? And while you're commenting that, I'm going to look up and see what else we got here. I might go back to resort budgeting because you asked some great questions too.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
They talked about like housing. Resort budgeting did.
It's funny. Let's just see.
Oh,
yeah. So, they asked a really good train. Let me get some of the questions for Sierra personally, because she has a class she's got to go to in about 20 minutes or so. So if you guys have any questions for Sierra especially, now's a really good time to ask those questions. There's one right here. Resort Budgeting made this comment actually about the tram.
I love that. I'm curious, where was that at where they asked that? Was it Magic Kingdom? Because I feel like they're the ones that are really good at those comments. Actually, no, I feel like I know someone in Epcot that would say that too. That's so funny. I love it.
So let me answer this question really quick. So do they allow you to be a part of Give Kids the World? Number one, that's a great program. I really hope they're able to bring that. Well, that company is able to come back after this whole thing. I know that they're kind of struggling a little bit right now. Give Kids the World is something that's kind of separate. I know that they really encourage you to participate in things called volunteers. That's VOLUNTEARS, like ears, Mickey ears. That's their service kind of end on the company. It was a really cool aspect to be able to participate in stuff like that. That's one of my biggest regrets, actually, is not participating in some of those other extracurriculars offered by the Disney College program. We mostly just spend our time in the parks, which is not a bad thing, but yeah. So I'm sure they wouldn't discourage that as long as you had time to make your shifts and stuff like that. You can participate in that. I know that we work personally a lot with the attractions, with Make-A-Wish kids and stuff like that. We often tried to make sure that we did something special for them, whether it was helping these kids be junior directors in the Indiana Jones stunt show, or getting them to the front of the line to meet Mickey and Minnie or Olaf or something like that, or just helping them be super cool and get some really cool situations, or getting to fight Darth Vader or Kylo Ren. We try to do a lot of things for those guys.
If there isn't any other questions yet, I actually have a question that would be fun to talk about right now. So like you mentioned the extracurriculars that are on the CP program. So can you talk a little bit about that and what
was your question one more time, sir?
So what kind of extracurriculars that you talked about can you experience on the CP program that you can't as a regular cast member?
That's a great question. Let me quickly just announce what Mike announced on his channel, and then I'm going to get to that because we're coming back to him. All right. So Mike announced that he dropped his first merch line yesterday, which is super cool. Good job, buddy.
Awesome.
Congratulations. I came out with one shirt design idea that I might be taking down, and I also haven't publicly announced my own merch things. I'm not really much of a merch kind of guy. I wear hats, I wear shirts and stuff like that, but I just, I'm not much of a merch guy. And also I didn't really like the shirt just because it's a little bit more derogatory to the stupid guests that come to Disney World. I created the shirt because one of the most common things I would hear at Muppets, Jedi Training, or Indiana Jones is it a ride? Is this a ride? And I'm like, no, it's not a ride. The seats don't move. You kind of have to, after a while, it just gets repetitive. So I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to
That's a good idea.
Just drop it.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
All right. To answer your question.
Okay.
The extracurriculars offered by the Disney College program were super, super cool. They have things like classes where you can take classes from people who are really high up at Disney. Like some high-level executives will come out and they'll talk about like their experiences with the company, like different branches of the company. One of the things I was really interested in was human resources. And they had someone from human resources come out, and they brought in several other leaders in human resources from various wings of human resources. Like they had like cast recognition come out. They had like hiring and recruiting come out. It was just super, super cool to be able to talk with these people, ask them questions, hear from them about what their day-to-day job is like, and see if you would be interested in something like that. They also share their contact information. So if you're interested in networking with them, it's really unique opportunities like that. That was probably my thing I wish I'd done more of. I ended up having to work more because I chose to pick up more shifts. So that way I would get a little bit more money. And I also my shifts were kind of scheduled weird. And so I never tried to work the class around it as much as I probably should have.
However, actually, whenever you pick a class, they're actually supposed to they
adjust your schedule.
Yeah, or they're actually supposed to give you that day off. That's what they did for me when I had a couple of classes. They would make sure I had a day off.
Yeah.
But what's nice is you can actually plan these scheduled classes way in advance, even before you start your program. It's very competitive, though, to get into these classes. There's like a limited seating amount. But I was able to go to an event planning class where they talked about like different parties and events like weddings or, I don't know, baby showers they do at the resorts. And then another one I got to do is a character performing class where we got to learn how to be a character performer.
Right.
But yeah, everything, it's scheduled, even tours. You can do tours while on your CP, which is some of the best things that you can do. And there are special CP events, such as like they had a Typhoon Lagoon party just for the CPs.
Yeah, that
we didn't get to do. Hashtag
2020. But there are so many things we could have done, like meet and greet experiences too. Like I think one of the things I wish I had done was there was this they did a private showing of Hunchback of Notre Dame where they also brought in the characters for Quasimodo, and I think they brought in some other characters, meet and greet characters where you can meet Quasimodo, which he hasn't been a character in years, that you can meet in the parks. And so like that would have been really cool to meet Quasimodo and take a picture with him. But again, I think I chose more of my time to be spent with Sierra, the parks, YouTubers, and working. And so, but you know, you live and you learn. And you know, if we get that chance or we get that opportunity, we'll definitely try to take it next time. All right. I'm just scrolling through here, and thank you guys so much. Resort budgeting, I'm going to just rifle through some of your questions here just because I know some of these answers really shortly. How many times can you, oh, we already did that one. Yeah. So many times as you'd like, as long as it's within the guidelines. What's the age limit? The age limit, actually, there is no age limit as long as you're in those guidelines.
And you're in college.
Yeah, like, and that also counts for your master's, your doctorates, your PhD, whatever you're going through. As long as it counts as a school, as far as I know of, you can do a Disney college program.
They're actually in my character performing class. There was a lady, I thought she was an instructor because she looked like in her 40s or 50s, but she was actually a college program participant. And that also, so that I was really surprised, but that also counts. There is no age limit to it.
I knew a guy who had like a wife and kids, and they were in the program with him, and or no, sorry, not the kids, but the wife was in the program with him, and he was going for his master's, and he was like in his 30s or 40s as well. And so there's not really much of an age limit there. What's the cost of a rental townhouse? Did they assign you a roommate? Yes. Again, this is kind of depending on what you want to do. So for the first part of our program, we chose to live in DCP housing. And we landed up, very thankfully, in the same complex. We landed up in the Commons. And the Commons was one of the more expensive ones.
It's nice.
I can't remember how much it was. I think it was like...
It was $1,200. No.
So we live in different apartments, though.
Oh, yeah. Because I was in a 3-person, so it was cheaper for me.
But I can't remember how much they took off my paycheck every week.
For me, it was $128 a week. Yeah,
I think mine was closer to like $140, $150 a week.
How much?
Because it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, so it was like twice as big as yours. It was like 100. I had a bit.
No, the most it can be is 200, and that's for 1 bedroom, and anything less than that.
Oh,
so yours is probably like 120,
something,
130, some odd.
I can't remember honestly, because that was about a year ago. But I remember it was just something that was kind of interesting. It was probably something around there.
Yeah, because we total paid about like $500 a month for rent.
Yeah,
about 500, 600.
The thing is, like, it's taken out of all of your roommates as well. For us, that's just kind of how it was. Mine was a 2-bedroom, 5-person apartment. And so I was in the room with a bunk bed, and there was a second bed. And my roommates were great. Looking back, we definitely had a lot of scuffles. But it was just because the thing is, none of us chose a roommate because the people we were going to hopefully room with, I think most of them roomed with someone else. And they were only allowing you to link up with one person. She got lucky because she was able to link with, ended up getting an apartment.
All the people that I wanted to room with, which was 2 other girls from high school.
So, but with me, all my guys were random, and so we kind of butt heads every now and then. But overall, they were good guys. We didn't have to kick anyone out, so that was good. Let's see. I'm gonna go scroll down here. Yeah, so just answering here. Yes, they do take rent out of your check. That comes out of your check, so you don't get to touch that really at all. You don't manipulate that at all. Whatever's done, that's done. That's partially why they have to give you that many hours, because you're paid about $11 an hour, which is the lowest tier on a Disney paying aspect. The internships get paid the least, which makes sense.
But work the most.
Yeah, and they work the most because they have to try to balance, what they're getting, because Florida is expensive, and going to the parks very often is very expensive too. So yeah, that was a good question. Let me just see here. Okay, there's a lot of good questions here. So sorry, guys. Let me just see if I can again try to rifle through here. All right. Drew, they restrict where you can go. Depends. Do you
Oh.
work in that location? Like, that's the real question. Like, you would love to go to the Utilidors. However, for traditions, they'll take you to the Utilidors. Typically, what's really cool in traditions is they'll be talking about all these different, policies and what cast members should do, what cast members should look like, how they should behave. And they're like, we can talk about this all we want, but it might be easier just to show you. And then they get everyone on a bus and they go behind Magic Kingdom. The entrance to the Utilidors, the big one that everyone has to go to, is right behind Storybook Circus area. And then you go under the tunnels, or you go into the tunnels, because it's weird, because when you get there, it's like everything's like higher up, so you're looking at it and it just kind of throws you off. But once you're in the Utilidors, they're absolutely amazing. It's literally like a little city under there.
Crazy.
And it's kind of like a subway system.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the vibes I get. And you see all the piping, you see all the things you hear about, like where trash gets shooted at 30 miles an hour, through pipes and stuff like that, to pipes and stuff like that. It's just so cool. But yeah, you will probably get to see the Utilidors if you get to be a cast member. And especially if you pick up a shift in Magic Kingdom. Every single time I picked up a shift in Magic Kingdom, I got to explore some aspect of backstage I've never seen before, which is really fun. The first time I was going to work at Splash Mountain, I went the wrong way accidentally, and I went the parade route area. I went up where the parades come out, right by that side of Splash Mountain, and I got to see all the parade floats back there. I got to see them working on the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party training and stuff like that, which was wild. And then I got to see the backside of Splash Mountain, which was super, super cool. And eventually, like, you can also get tours to go to backstage places. Like, we both thankfully were able to get backstage tours at the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
Which was so amazing.
So cool.
So cool. All right. Good.
Ooh.
That's a good question. Do you have a car to get around pretty easy?
I can answer this very well, because my first few months of my CP, I did not have my car. My car was actually in Idaho. And so they have a bus system, which comes really handy. You can actually download an app on your phone, and when you work, there'll be certain buses that you go on to get to your workplace. So, like, I don't even remember what bus Epcot was, but like, you get on the Epcot bus, and then there's probably a few more other stops because you have to pick up at the complexes. Mm-hmm. So I had to get on the bus probably an hour right before my shift, just so I can get to work on time and clock in on time. And it's kind of intense, especially when you're first getting used to it. And if there's problems with the bus, or like if the bus breaks down, then you got to try to contact your leader. So that's kind of a fun dealio there. Mm-hmm. But then when you get a car, it's more convenient, because then you can just head straight to work without taking an hour on a bus. But yeah.
The downside of that, though, I will say, is when you have a car, like for the first part of our programs, for the first part, we lived in housing. So we had that opportunity to take the bus. But afterwards, for our extension, we chose to live off property in apartment complexes. And at that point, then getting to work is then on you. So like if the bus breaks down, your leaders will understand, and they'll typically understand if that happens. But if it's your car, then it's all on you. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure you're getting to work on time. And traffic, especially during like the holiday season and stuff like that, can be pretty intense in Orlando, especially around the parks and driving on property. And people never know where they're going on World Drive, especially. So it's pretty miserable sometimes. But so honestly, I would recommend using a car. However, if you end up in housing, use the bus system to save money. So that way you can spend it on, dining plans or something like that. Or if you'd like, tickets or an annual pass.
Yep.
Segue. Yes, there are discounts. I'm not sure about discounts for annual passes. I never heard about that.
Yeah. Most of the people that I've talked to that were CPs, they've already had their annual pass. Mm-hmm. And so they just had both, but
yeah. I mean, I had friends that bought tickets as well. I think there is a discount for that. Again, I never did it, but I think there probably is. I know they have a ton of discounts for cast members, for resorts, for restaurants, loads of places, for merch, lots of cool places.
So great.
Great questions. So we're finally done with that first round of questioning. So great. Let me just see here. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to comment on what Mike said. The best seats for Indiana Jones Stunt Show is when you're an extra because you're right next to the Cairo fight scene. So for her first time ever seeing the show, Sierra got to be an extra.
Yes.
First time ever seeing the show, she saw it live, literally, right there. And we both came from theater backgrounds. Her more so, and so it was really fun for you, right?
Yeah, this actually, that experience made me want to work at Hollywood studios, just because, like, just getting to be involved with the shows and work with like the directors and the actors. So cool. So yes, Mike, I totally agree. That is the best place to be when you're watching the Indiana Jones show, is in the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh man,
there's so many awesome questions.
Lots. All right. Let's just see here. So many good questions. I don't know. Actually.
Wait. What do you?
I don't know the answer to that.
What do you do when you see a car? Oh, I know the answer to this. Okay, we actually had a lot of these before my program.
Oh yeah, this is a question for Sierra.
Yeah, this is my question. Okay, so
need some water real quick.
No problem. Okay, so with this, if we see a car running and no one's in it, automatically we have to tell our leaders, and then I believe they have to get security involved or call the fire department, just because this is a hazard. I'm not sure if it was happening if it actually did happen or not, but a car actually like caught on fire because it was left on. And so we had the fire department at the Epcot parking lot multiple times that day. And I was just coming into work going to the Auto Plaza. And so it was just kind of crazy hearing that was constantly happening. But that is a fantastic question. And any other parking lot questions, feel free to ask. Let's see. Okay. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Apply full time. There's so many good questions.
So that's a good question, actually. Let's do that one really quick.
Okay.
If you apply for full-time, would you have a leg up on anyone else? If you get it, applying for full-time is kind of a process, because the way it goes is it goes to part-timers looking to get full-time. It also goes to seasonal. It also goes to full-time looking to get full-time in a different location. There's definitely a tier to getting full-time. And then college program participants are like at the very, very bottom. Yeah. What's more likely is you're going to get seasonal or part-time out of a college program round. And then I had a friend, actually, she was able to go from seasonal, I can't remember where she was at. She went seasonal to part-time really quick, like in a couple of, like less than a month. And now she's part-time at the Adventureland Liberty Square Loop area for attractions, which means she works Haunted Mansion. I think that's her primary attraction. So she's done really well. And she was a CP with me as well.
That's so cool. So
if you're full-time, yes, you have a good leg up on a lot of other people at the company. And so if you're trying to aim somewhere, I mean, of course, getting full-time it's
pretty good.
It's pretty good, especially. Right. But the other disadvantage is, though, when you're full-time in that location, you're kind of stuck there for a little bit.
Yeah, because the whole thing with full-time is you have to stay in that area for a year, and then you can transfer to any other area within the park. So it's always best to know where you want to work, and if you choose full-time, know that that's kind of the consequence, is that you'll be there for a long time. So you got to hope you like it there.
For sure. Good question. Are you required to stay in their townhouses?
No, that you do not have to, because you can either stay off DCP housing with a friend, family members, or you can stay in their complexes.
And I mean, that's what we did for our extension, is we chose to get away. And how do you stay cool and warm for those long days?
Ooh.
I mean, it's hot. I mean, we each had our different areas that we were working. You were working in the parking lot, though, where there's not much shade at all.
Yeah. For us, they have coolers. Like there's different areas you can work in the parking lot. You can be parking cars, tram, any of that, and we're all just kind of like one big team helping each other. And what's convenient is that they always have a cooler with water or Gatorade in any section of the parking lot where we have our Disney water bottles that we can just fill up. And so just keep drinking a ton of water. Usually you need to call some 103s when you really gotta go.
That's a code for using the bathroom, just so you know. We 103, that's a really fun joke. There's all these different types of codes used at Disney just to let, so that way you're not saying the actual, hey, some dude just puked his guts out on the Jedi training stage, or some dude just wet his pants. You'd hear all kinds of crazy stories like that. So they use different codes for that. And so, puking your guts out is code V. Code V is something we'd hear a lot in Muppet Vision 3D, actually, surprisingly. And sometimes in Indiana Jones. So, that happens. But yeah, for staying cool and staying warm, especially during the winter, actually, I feel like that was the hardest part, was staying warm.
Oh, yeah. I think there's different costumes that you have. Like, they have summer costumes, which are shorts or a skirt for me, and then like the t-shirts. And then when winter comes around, like in October, they have you stock up on the like jackets, and sometimes they have gloves, scarves, hats. They give you like all the equipment so that way you're prepared. But when I was in the parking lot and there was like a really cold, windy day, or if it was pouring rain, the leaders would be really nice enough to give you some hand warmers that you can just have whenever and just hold on to it. And they make sure you're taken care of when you're 100%. Working.
And I mean, they're not, if you say, hey, I'm not feeling good, you can get an ER, which is an early release from work that day, or especially like if you're getting really dehydrated and stuff like that, like you can just take it easy. They'll let you, they'll take care of you. It's not like you're just stay out there, Disney, you're here to work, it's not like that at all.
They're really kind to you.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I've heard some horror stories from management, but I mean, it differs on the area. But for the most part, from what I've heard, people, care about people at Disney. So that's a good quote.
People care about people here at Disney.
Do you need to get set up?
Yeah, I probably should.
6:57.
Yeah, I was just seeing if there was anything else, but.
Yeah, is there any last questions for Sierra here before she's got to go?
Questions.
Or do you want to just kind of wrap up your own thoughts about your DCP?
Okay, yeah. So overall, the DCP program, initially when I went into it, wasn't as I expected, especially knowing that I was going to be working in the parking lot. But over time, as I worked for the company, as I got to be in different areas of working at the different parks, working at Auto Plaza, working at the parking lot, and having those little moments to make magic for other people. That was the most meaningful part of my program, was just making the magic, brightening other people's day. And I absolutely loved my program. That it taught me a lot and it helped me grow in so many ways. And anyone that wants to do a program, I highly recommend it. No matter what position you're at, even if it's like the toughest position, there's always a way you can make someone's day a little bit better when working there.
For sure.
So thanks guys for having me on, and good luck with the rest of the stream.
So great questions, by the way. Appreciate you guys all for just participating, having fun with this. This has just been kind of a whatever video, but I appreciate you guys for coming in. Let me just see here. All right. So let's just finish off with these questions here really quick. Okay. So do most of the DCP want to work at Disney or just move on? That's a great question. A lot of people come here for internship credit. Like they come here just for the experience of just getting to see what it's like to work in the United States. They come here just to see what it's like to work at Disney. They come here just to, have a fun job over the summer. Some people come for the benefits of being able to go to the parks whenever they want. They come for varying reasons, but I will say there's probably a good chunk of people who want to work for Disney afterwards. There's probably a good chunk of people like me who are just kind of here to see what it's like and just get a good idea. That's, I think, in Disney kind of caters the Disney College program for that reason. That's why they provide so many professionals to be able to come out and just, hey, this is what we have to offer. And I think what I've seen a lot of people do is I've seen a lot of people say, you know, what Disney's model for the Disney College program is something that a lot of other bigger companies should do as well. So that way they are able to like showcase what they have to offer for all these college kids that are wanting to come out for these internship programs. And so it's a great opportunity for people to be able to see like, hey, is this a place I really want to be? Is this a place I just, you know, want to work? For me personally, I've always wanted to work for Disney as long as I was like 2. It was always a goal for me to get there. And I felt like the Disney College program was a good angle for me to be able to get my foot in the door with the company. And one of my biggest regrets is that I chose to go on my extension instead of just going right into a part-time position. And I think partially the reason why I did that was I was a little bit more scared of the ability to get a seasonal position, because it's a little bit harder to hire on in the winter than it is to hire on in the summer. They're looking for a lot of people in the summer typically. And so I kind of psyched myself out and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do my extension. And then my extension goes till late May. And so they'll definitely be looking to hire some people around late May. And then 2020 happened. And so, but for me personally, yeah, I can't wait to get back to Disney, and so can Sierra. We both really loved our time there, and so we're both looking forward to getting back. Good question. Do you turn your uniform at the end of your shift? Now, this depends. One of the cool things about the Disney uniforms is you technically don't have to clean them if you don't want to. You can just, you know, bring a change of clothes and then just dump your uniform off, and then you can get a new uniform the next day, which does take time because they might not have a uniform in your size. You know, they might not have whatever. And so what I did and what they typically have you do is they have you grab, typically for me in attractions, I had to grab 5 of each article of clothing. So like I had 5 shirts, I had 5 pants, which could either be long pants or shorts, but it just had to be 5. That's the limit. And then you can grab your belt. You can grab a pouch. You can grab your water bottle holder and any other accessories that come with your costume. Some costumes are a little bit more extravagant. Some are a little more laid out. I know like for like the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, I got my taste of what it was like to work at Magic Kingdom. And there's a lot of costume pieces for especially that uniform. Like there was the shirt, there was the pants, there was like there's the bow tie, there's like a vest, there's like the hat, there's like all kinds of different things. And it was just a lot. I like the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party one though, because then I got to wear the Santa hat with it. And that was just a lot of fun to wear a Santa hat all day on my shift. I didn't have to worry about my hair or anything like that. Which is pretty much whenever I wear a hat nowadays. It's just so I don't want to have to worry about my hair. Great question though. And so you have that opportunity. And so at the end of your shift or at the end of the time that we had here though, it's kind of like a library book. You have to turn it all the way back in. And so at the end of our program, we got back all of our clothing. So we don't owe anything back to Disney, which is good. Are there any DCP positions at the hotels? Of course, loads of them. There are, you really get to prioritize where you want to work. You know, if you say, you know, especially in your phone interview, like, you know, I've always wanted to work at the resorts. There's lifeguard positions that are CP programs that get to work at the resorts. There's hospitality, housekeeping. Housekeeping is one of those, we talked about this earlier, the high volume or the high hiring one's housekeeping is a big one. And so that's very likely you're going to be working at the resort. So if you get housekeeping, custodial, there's all kinds of different things that are out there. Front desk, bell operations, bus drivers. There's loads of different CP positions that are at hotels and resorts. Great question. Does Disney place you in a job that you are going for college for example, cooking? That's a great question. They actually have the culinary program for that. So that's a different program, but it's kind of under the same wing of programs. Just like they have professional internships for, like if you're in finance or something like that, like they have financial internships or marketing internships, human resources internships, depends on your ring. But that's more like the professional league. For regular, the Disney College program, Disney, I've talked to recruiters and they do like to place you in areas where, you know, you're comfortable with, as well as you have some expertise in, just like any other job. But, you know, typically you don't have to be they're not looking for, a horticulture major for running Muppet Vision 3D. They're going to probably put you in gardening or some aspect of horticulture, so that way you're working in that aspect. And cooking, I mean, they have the culinary, and they have tons of restaurants and places like that too. And I think they're looking for a ton of places like that, like jobs available right now. If you're looking for jobs available right now, Disney Springs is a good place for that too. They have like the certain Disney-owned restaurants and stuff like that. I'm not sure what they hire for over there, and whether that's a CP position or a culinary position, but they do look for a lot of those things. Great question. Awesome. I think I'm just going through here. Okay. I think the last question I could see in here that we might have missed, I think I might have missed this one right here from Resort Budgeting, which is really ironic. What types of jobs are available? I want to make sure I get this one. Again, this one, it really does vary on what they have like available. It just depends. The high volume ones that I can remember off the top of my head were housekeeping, quick service food and beverage, custodial, lifeguard, and there was one more. I just can't remember which one that was. But they look for those in particular. But there's also like attractions. I mean, oh gosh, there's so many. There's too many actually. You can look it up on their website, and they just have all these different areas where you could work in, like different role examples. Watercraft. I had a friend in who was classed as watercraft, and what she did was she operated the Sasagula river cruises, which are the river boats at Disney Springs that take you to Port Orleans Resort, as well as just shuttling them across to the various areas in Disney Springs as well. And that was part of it as well. That's part of the CP program. Basically, anywhere you can imagine working, they have a program for it. It's really spread out, and it's really, really cool, really, really fascinating just to see what all they have. So I'm really excited. Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool places to work. What's the hat you're wearing? That's a good question for right now. So this is the Washington Nationals hat. I grew up partially all over the Southeast. I also lived in California and Chicago and a lot of other places, Idaho, Utah. But my family still lives in the Virginia area, especially the DC area. And so we were big fans of the Nationals. I'm always a big baseball fan. I grew up going to baseball games all over the place. Chicago was where I had my first hot dog at Wrigley Field, which is where the Chicago Cubs play. So I'm always a big baseball fan. And so I love wearing baseball hats. They're among my favorite hats to wear, especially when I go to the parks, or especially when I don't want to do my hair for a day. Let me just see here. Great questions, guys. And yeah, the Tron ride, that's coming up soon. We don't know when that's going to be opening up, but they do have CP positions for that too. When Mickey and Minnie's opened up at Hollywood Studios, many of the CPs that were working the Frozen attraction, the Frozen sing-along show, they also were trained on Mickey and Minnie's, as well as some of the associates or some of the cast members working like the guest flow area at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. They also got trained to work in that area too. They just kind of brought in as many as they can, as well as just putting out an open hiring area for anyone wanted to interview for a position there, especially if anyone had ever worked in a ride or attraction, they could apply for there as well. They also have, this is probably not open for CPs, but they had certain cast members that would test and adjust the ride as well, which would be so cool to be part of that team. I would love to be a part of the test and adjust team for Guardians of the Galaxy, that roller coaster. Like literally what their whole job is they ride the ride, they test it, they see what's going on, they learn how to operate the ride as well, and then they help train other people. It's just such a cool job. Let's just see here. Is there anyone that stayed, or did they require them to leave? So this is probably a good time to talk about the end of the program for me. It was kind of brutal. Anyone that was on the program was told to leave. Anyone that had a CP position, as far as I know, they were all let go. The way that there were emails that came out, they were saying, we're terribly sorry this is happening on, but as of this date, your programs are now completed. You will receive any college credit that you guys need for that program, but as of right now, we're having to send you guys home because of this. My personal opinion about the whole situation where they had to send people home was, when you look at CP housing and you have people from all over the world staying in these housing complexes with a virus that can infect very frequently and very easily, especially in cross-contamination areas and in close quarters, especially with the 2-person, 5-person, 2-bedroom situation I was in, it's a no-brainer that they would want these people who are from other countries, other states, to go home immediately and just stay safe. So that way they're not spreading the virus and then sending them to the various parts of the world. It made sense to be able to send the college program kids home, but it was still really rough, especially for those like me and Sierra who had moved out of housing. In our situation, we were also just a labor force that they weren't sure if they were even going to use us for the rest of the time. The idea was when they were shutting down, that they were going to shut down for 2 weeks, and then they were going to come right back up. That was the idea that, we were all thinking, 2 weeks quarantine, and then we'll be right back to work. But obviously it didn't turn out that way. They sent out an email to say, hey guys, if you would be interested in coming back to work, write your emails here and we'll try to see if we can contact you guys. But as far as we know, we've never been contacted since. And I don't think we will, at least until all the people that are on furlough are back to work and they're a little bit more full strength here, which, we've talked about this on past episodes of The Playground. I honestly don't know when that will be. I'm thinking the winter, hopefully, but who knows what's going to happen. So it's kind of sad. When I found out, though, that the program was ending, I was working at the ESPN Wildwood Sports Complex, which is another place that I forgot to mention that I worked as well. I didn't work there as much. I think I worked there a grand total of like 6 days out of my extension, which was only about 3.5 months. So 6 days out of 3.5 months wasn't really that much. But I was working there during one of the cheer events or something like that, and all the CPs, there were about 30 of us, got pulled into a room, including some of my really good friends, and they were told by the leaders at the ESPN Wildwood Sports Complex that all of our programs were being ended early and that we were going to have to go home. And when that moment happened, it was devastating. It was like just sending this huge shockwave into the hearts of so many people who worked there. And it was very difficult for them, to have your job, the place that you've loved working more than anywhere else in the world, just say, I'm sorry, it's over. It was rough for a lot of people. Some people had spent a lot of money and they really were trying to set up shop here. They didn't have anywhere else to go. They didn't have another job. They didn't have any other place to go to. Some of them had come from other countries where there were travel restrictions and they couldn't go home. There are people I knew, some of my friends, whose families didn't even want them to come home because they were worried about the virus. And they didn't want them, contaminating them back home. It was insane. And it was just so sad just to see everyone was crying. And it was just such a sad time. I went back to Hollywood Studios that day after work. I finished my shift. A lot of people just got ERs and they left. I finished my shift and I just, I was just like this. I wanted to go see Hollywood Studios. And so we went there, and the management at Hollywood Studios, they were just really distraught about it too. And they were giving us hugs, and it was just really, really sad. And a lot of people, it was just brutal for a lot of people. But eventually, that's just the situation and how it happened. I went back to work the next day. I worked most of my shift at ESPN, and they're like, yeah, just get out of here. Go enjoy the parks, have a good last day. And so I went to Hollywood Studios for the rest of the day, got to go ride Rise one more time. I got to ride Mickey and Minnie's one more time. I think that was my last ride. And I got to just do everything else that I really wanted to do at Hollywood Studios. I got to see the last show of Indiana Jones. I got to go on the stage and do the lights, camera, action. It was super emotional for everyone, including the cast. And I got, let me see what I can show you guys from college program. I got gloves from, what was his name? I can't remember which one it was. It was either Chris Barra or it wasn't Dale. I don't know. It was one of the indies. I don't think it was Ryan either. But so it was either Ryan McVeigh, Chris Barra, Dale, or one of those guys. Aaron Zola. I think he gave me these gloves, which is super cool. I got a Kermit, and I still have my name tag from when I was a college program participant. And I have my lightsaber, which is somewhere. I couldn't find it over there. That way I had something from each area, and that was a lot of fun. I also had a baseball that was signed by all of the characters, which was really, really cool. And I don't know where that is either. I need to make sure I get that somewhere. But yeah, that was the end of the program. And looking back on it just a couple months later, it was really sad. But, you know, as the program as a whole, I would never, ever regret any moment that I was on my program. I loved every single second I got to work there. I loved being with people. I loved working in an environment where I felt like I mattered. It was something that I will truly never forget. And I really can't wait to get back. Every day that I check the job postings and stuff like that, it's just a constant reminder that, you know, it might not be right now. It might not be a week from now, but it might not be a month from now. But I know that my heart and where I belong is at Disney. And so I just will get back there eventually. But thank you guys so much for all your questions. Seriously, I was not expecting this to go as long as it did, but I'm glad that, you know, we did this in a live stream format, because clearly there's so much to talk about this topic, and there's so much to talk about my time at Disney. There's things I didn't even talk about during this whole process, but I really can't thank you all enough for all your constant support, for the love that you guys have given me and Sierra. Is really you guys that we do all this for. We don't, I keep saying this in almost every video, but it's 100% true. I don't do this for the views, the subscribers, the whatever comes my way. I'm just so grateful for all of you guys that, you know, have genuine interest in the things that we do. And we love providing just fun, uplifting content for you guys. And that's what I'm going to keep trying to do for as long as I'm on YouTube. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys for participating and asking so many great questions, especially you, Resort Budgeting. You have my 100% love for this video, because this video would not be possible without you, because you had so many amazing, great questions that I just can't thank you enough. And thank you for everyone else who had so many great questions too. This was a really, really fun discussion. So I can't wait to see you guys again, which will be soon. I'm going to announce right now, we're going to do another live stream on Saturday, and we're going to be featuring a lot of really fun people like Wannabe Mouseketeer, Disney Rod, you're coming on, which I'm really excited for. And then Diz Park Photo and several other people who are coming on. We're going to be talking about the Muppets. We're going to be talking about Kermit, and we're finally going to give the Muppets the respect that they finally need and deserve, because Disney won't do it, so we'll just have to do it. And we're just going to be talking about Muppets, which is going to be so great. So I hope we'll see you for that. That'll be probably Saturday at 5 o'clock. I think is the time we're going for. Saturday at 5 o'clock, our time, Eastern time, Disney World time. So we hope to see you guys there for that. It'll be a lot of fun. I'll probably post about the thumbnail and the reminder for that sometime tonight. But again, guys, I really can't wait to just get back there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Enough sad stuff. We're going to just keep looking forward to the future, and it's going to be fun. But thank you guys so much again for watching. I keep winding this out, but really can't thank you guys enough. But until next time, I'll see you real soon. Bye, guys.